We have covered criminal damage under the English law, and so now we will move on to the Malaysian law. Now, as mentioned before, under Malaysian law, criminal damage is referred to as the offence of mischief, right? Mischief. So for many, it sounds like a strange name to describe the offence. So I remember there was once when there was a case which was reported in the papers, which got, suppose you can say, viral. A lot of people were talking about that case where a young girl took a steering wheel and she hit another man's car with it, right? She hit it many times with it, damaging the car. Finally, she was charged in court, and it was reported in the papers that she was charged for the offense of mischief. So I remember that after that, some of my friends on social media were complaining. They say that how is it that she's charged for being mischievous? It's more than just being mischievous, right? But yeah, that's what happens when you do not know about the law, may do not bother to find out about the law. Now, the offense of criminal damage under the Penal Code is called the offense of mischief, right? And this is found under section 425. 425, and this is the definition of the offense of mischief: whoever with intent to cause or knowing that he is likely to cause wrongful loss or damage to the public or any person causes the destruction of any property or any such change in any property or in the situation thereof as destroys or diminishes its value or utility or affects it injuriously commits mischief. Now, for all intents and purposes, you will see that the definition of mischief under section 425 is very similar to the definition of criminal damage under English law. There are some obvious differences, right, which I should be pointing out, but generally, especially for the actus reus, you'll see that it's very similar. The key difference is that under the penal code, it explains it more, it defines it better, and it's much clearer. Whereas under the English law, the Criminal Damage Act is a bit straightforward, and you need to look at case law to be able to understand the statute better. But here in 425, it's pretty clear. So let's break it up. Right? What are the elements of actus reus and what are the elements of mens rea? So for mens rea, just as we have seen last semester for non-fatal offences, when under English law, the mens rea is intention or recklessness. Under the penal code, it is usually intention or knowledge. So the mens rea here is either you have the intent to cause wrongful loss or damage to the public or any person, or you know that you are likely to cause wrongful loss or wrongful damage to the public or to any person. And then the actus reus is causes destruction of any property or any change in, or causes any change in any property or in the situation thereof, as it destroys or diminishes its value or utility or affects it injuriously. Right? So let's look at the actus reus first. So basically, actus reus is causing the destruction of a property or causing a change in the property or a change in the situation of the property, where the change in the property is that its value or utility is destroyed, or its value or utility is diminished, or it affects it injuriously. So as mentioned just now, this is very similar to criminal damage under the English law, under Criminal Damage Act, where it's basically destroy or damages. And we have seen that under case law in England and Wales, damaging a property is basically where you basically reduce the utility, where the utility or the usefulness of the property is diminished or reduced. So similarly, that's what is stated here under mischief. You either destroy it or you cause a change in the property or in the situation of the property where the value or utility is either gone or the value or utility has been reduced, or you affect the property injuriously, right? Now, in explanation 2 to 425, it is provided that mischief may be committed by an act affecting property belonging to the person who commits the act or to that person and others jointly. So this is one of the key differences where under English law, section 1.1, it provides that it must be property belonging to another. Here, it does not have to be property belonging to another. In fact, explanation 2 makes it clear that you can actually destroy property that belongs to you, and it can be a criminal offense, right? If the mens rea is satisfied. If by destroying your property, you cause loss to somebody else. We shall see that later on. Okay, so that's the actus reus for mischief. Uh, Examples of causing or diminishing the value of the property or affecting it injuriously. So a very simple example is that if you turn off the water supply to a house, right, then you clearly diminish the value of that property because that property does not have water supply. Now these are action figures that belong to me, and this photo was actually taken in my law office years ago, right? Okay, probably before any of y'all were born, I think, or when y'all were really small. Okay, it was in my office. It was hanging in my office because I did not have any more space at home to put them. Right, I used to collect action figures. I used to collect a lot of action figures, and I hung this all in my office room. It was actually behind the door. So when you come to my office room, you open the door, and if the door remains open, and most of the time in my office, right, the door will remain open. Uh, okay, so you will not see it because it's just behind the door there. So I remember there was once when the senior partner came into my room and he had something very important and very confidential to discuss with me. So I mean, he wouldn't have come to my room if it wasn't urgent or if it wasn't really serious. So he quickly came into my room and said, Manang, I need to talk to you. Walked into my room, then he closed the door. When he closed the door, he saw all these action figures. Then he was like, I think I'm paying you too much. Yeah. Anyway, the thing about action figures is that if some of you actually may be wondering why doesn't he take out the action figure and play with it? Okay. Now we are collectors. We don't buy action figures to play with it. Okay. We don't buy action figures to play with it. We collect it. And as long as it remains in its packaging, right, or as long as it remains in its box, then the value of it will be will be retained. And not only that, right, the value of it will continually increase. So for those people who are my age who collected action figures when they were really small, when Star Wars first came out, probably when they were 7 years old, the original trilogy, okay, not the prequel trilogy. Some of them they actually bought the Star Wars action figures. For some reason, they never opened it. I don't know why. I mean, if you're a 7-year-old kid, you buy action figures, you're going to open it and you're going to play with it, right? So for those who have kept those action figures, which are like easily 40 over years, 30, 40 over years old, as long as it's still in its packaging, it is crazy expensive now. It is so priceless now, right? Uh, because it is kept in in its packaging. So usually when you buy action figures on eBay, you have to check and see whether is it MIP or MIB. So MIP stands for mint in package, or MIB is mint in box. That means it's in mint condition, it's in good, pristine condition, it's still in the box, right? And yeah, I used to collect a lot of these action figures, and I used to go to eBay and I buy it from eBay. And one of the problems that I faced last time is that a lot of the sellers on eBay are in the United States, at least the sellers who sell these action figures, and quite a number of them do not ship it overseas. They only ship it within the states. So what I did then was that I got my friend's address. He was studying there at the time, and I asked them to ship it to him. And then when he came back for his summer holidays, he will bring it back for me. Okay, so that's what I did. So I bought some very nice Futurama action figures. I don't know whether you've heard of Futurama. Uh, Okay, so finally he came back for the summer. I was so excited to finally get hold of my action figures. And then he was talking to me and my friends and he was like, wow, the packages were so big and bulky. So what I did was that I just took out all the action figures and I packed it into my bag. And I was like, you what? I took it out from the box. so it's easy for me to bring it back. Or else it's so bulky, I can't bring it back home. And I was like, no, right? So you see, all these action figures in which are in this packaging in the box. The moment you open the box, the value of it plunges, right? It just drops drastically. Yeah, the value of it just drops immediately. Okay, so these are certain acts, simple acts where you open the box or you open the package, even though the figure itself may still be in mint condition, but the very act of opening the packaging means that you have diminished the value of the action figure. And that itself can be a mischief if you do it purposely, right? If you go to somebody's action figures collection and you damage the box or you actually open up the box or the packaging, then you have reduced the value of the action figure itself. So now we move on to menswear, right? Uh, Actually, mischief is pretty straightforward. So it's really going to be a very short lecture. If I don't tell you stories about my action figures, it would be even shorter, right? Okay, now menswear is a bit more interesting. Whoever with intent to cause or knowing that he is likely to cause wrongful loss or damage to the public or to any person. So you see that the menswear here is quite different, a bit more different compared to actus reus when you compare it with the English law. The explanation 1 provides that it is not essential to the offense of mischief that the offender should intend to cause loss or damage to the owner of the property injured or destroyed. It is sufficient if he intends to cause or knows that he is likely to cause wrongful loss or damage to any person by injuring the property, whether it belongs to that person or not. Okay, so when you damage the property, all right, when you destroy the property, it must be with the intention, or you must know that it is likely to cause loss or damage to someone. It doesn't have to be the owner. It can be loss or damage to anybody. All right. Again, we will look at the illustrations to be able to see how this can happen. Right. So causing loss not only to the owner of the property but to anyone. That's what the definition provides very clearly. Okay, so for 425, I broke it up in this way, whether the accused intended to cause either wrongful loss or wrongful damage, and he intended to cause it to the public or to any person, or he knew that it was likely to cause wrongful loss or wrongful damage to the public or to any person. Okay, wrongful loss or wrongful damage to anybody, basically, or to the public. You either intend to cause that or you knew that it was likely to cause that. So let's look at the illustrations. Right? A voluntarily burns valuable security belonging to Z, intending to cause wrongful loss to Z. So A has committed mischief. So that's pretty straightforward. You take somebody else's property, you burn it, you destroy it, and it is a valuable security. And Section 30 defines what a valuable security is, and therefore you cause a wrongful loss to the owner, which is Z, and therefore A has committed mischief by destroying that valuable security. Illustration B. A introduces into an ice house belonging to Z. Sorry, I've looked at this already. My penal code actually says this, actually provides this. There seems to be a word missing, right? Either A introduces fire or heat, right? But it's not a typo because I took it straight from the penal code that I have anyway, right? So A introduces the heat or fire into an ice house belonging to Z, and thus causes the ice to melt, intending wrongful loss to Z. A has committed mischief. I don't know why this illustration is given. It's not like we are living in the North Pole or there are Eskimos in Malaysia who live in an igloo, okay? But basically, it's an ice house. And I remember just some weeks ago, we were watching some YouTube on video about this place in Scandinavia. I can't remember which Scandinavian country, though. I think some of you would know, where they have this ice hotel, right? Ice hotel. The whole hotel is made out of ice, right? It's made out of ice and it's only open during winter. So you got to pay a lot of money and you go there and it's freezing inside because everything is made of ice. Okay. But people still want to go and experience it. I would love to go and experience it if possible. To stay in this ice hotel. What was really interesting was that every year they have to build it because it's only open during winter. And after winter, spring comes and summer, then the hotel will melt. So then autumn and just before winter or beginning of winter, they start to build it again, right? So you obviously do not bring fire or into the ice hotel, into the ice house, because if you do, the ice will melt and you will destroy it or you'll damage the ice house, and therefore causing wrong. If you do it with the intention to cause wrongful loss to the owner of the ice house, then you have committed mischief. Now, A voluntarily throws into a river. Yeah, I mean, this river Thames. But I suppose I should have shown a picture of the Klang River, right, or something like that. Because it's a Malaysian, this is under Malaysian law. But if you throw into a river a ring that belongs to Z, and with the intention of causing wrongful loss to Z, you have committed mischief. Situation of the property, right? Property may still be intact, but it is now in the bottom of the river and the owner cannot get it back. Okay, now here's when the property belongs to the accused himself. So A, knowing that his effects are about to be taken in execution in order to satisfy a debt due from him to Z, he destroys those effects with the intention of thereby preventing Z from obtaining satisfaction of the debt and of thus causing damage to Z. A has committed mischief. Okay, what is this all about, right? We're talking about execution, satisfaction of the debt, right? Okay, so what is stated in this case is that A owes money to Z, right? A owes money to Z. So most of the time, in situations like this, we will, if you represent Z, you will sue A in court, and then judgment is entered against A. So A must pay this amount of money to Z. Let's just say 10,000 ringgit to Z. Now, it's just a paper judgment, right? It's just a paper judgment, okay? So A may still choose not to pay the money. So what happens in practice is that we call this, you must execute the judgment, right? You must start execution proceedings, right? So when you talk about execution here, we're not talking about killing somebody, right? We're talking about executing the order here, or executing the judgment means that you must take further action in order to obtain satisfaction of the judgment. It's just a paper judgment which says that A, the court orders A to pay this amount to Z. So how is A going to pay to Z? A can still say, I'm not going to pay to Z, and what is Z going to do? So A still refuses to pay Z. One of the things that what Z can do is that he can start execution proceedings against A. During my time in practice, what we normally do is that we take bankruptcy proceedings. Right? Depending on the amount of money that's owed, if a person cannot pay a certain amount of money, then he can be made a bankrupt. And if he's made a bankrupt, what happens then is that the court will appoint somebody, the official receiver, and they will take all of A's properties, and then they will use the properties to pay off all of A's debts. Okay. In the meantime, A is a bankrupt. He cannot own property. He cannot travel, and etc. Right. Another way of executing the order is to issue a writ of seizure and sale. Right. A writ of seizure and sale. There could be different kinds of writ of seizures and sale, but basically, as the name suggests, the writ of seizure and sale will then authorize the court-appointed bailiff, to go and seize A's properties and sell it off. And then once you sell it off, then you will have to then you'll use the proceeds of the sales and pay off A's debt. Okay, so I remember I had to do one of these cases when I was still very junior. I think I was still a chambering student. I had to go and oversee one of these not really a seizure and sale, but this was a situation where they the debtor, we call it the judgment debtor, has a shop which sells curtains and curtain fixtures, curtain rods, and things like that. So he couldn't pay his debt. So what the bailiff would do then is that on the appointed day, he would go to the shop there, open up the shop, and announcements has been made already, so people know about it. So people will come and then they will auction off all the things in the shop. So I just stood there as a lawyer wearing my jacket in the hot Malaysian sun and watched the proceedings, right? So after they have sold off all those things, then the money that they received from the sale of those things will be used to pay the debt, right? Used to pay Z. So in this case, That's what's going to that is what Z is trying to do, right? And A knows that his effects, that means his things. A knows that his properties are going to be taken and going to be sold off in order to pay his debt to Z. So in order to prevent that from happening, what does he do? He destroys his own property so that it cannot be sold off and so that Z cannot get the money, right? So it prevents Z from obtaining satisfaction of the debt, and therefore you have caused damage to Z. So here's a classic situation of where by destroying his own property, he has caused damage to other people, and therefore it is considered to be mischief. And another illustration is illustration E, right? A, having insured a ship, voluntarily causes the same to be cast away with the intention of causing damage to the underwriters. A has committed mischief, right? The underwriters are basically those who have insured the ship. Okay, so you have insured the ship, and then you send the ship, cast it away. Basically, it gets lost, right? Or it sinks, right? And the intention is so that those underwriters will have to pay the insured sum. Therefore, A has committed mischief. Again, right, by destroying or by damaging or destroying his own property, or causing a change in the situation of his property. Right. Now, illustration F, also a ship illustration. A causes a ship to be cast away, intending thereby to cause damage to Z, who has lent money on bottomry on the ship. What is this bottomry? Bottomry is basically like a mortgage. You learn about mortgage under land law, right? Basically, mortgage under English law is if the bank gives you a loan and then you mortgage your house in exchange of the loan, right? That means if you cannot pay off the loan, then the bank will take over your house. So here, there's lend money on bottomry on the ship, right? So basically, he has lent money to a person, and the person has basically, so to say, pledged the ship, right, in case the money cannot be paid. So therefore, since the ship has been cast away, Z would have suffered damage, and therefore A has committed mischief. Illustration G. Here again, it's the own property, but it is property which is shared. So A, having joint property with Z in a horse, shoots the horse, intending thereby to cause wrongful loss to Z. So this is a classic example of where you cut off your own nose to spite your face. I don't know whether is that a good illustration. This is a good illustration, but anyway, yeah. So you actually shoot your own horse in order to cause wrongful loss to Z because he also owns the horse, right? And therefore, A will have committed mischief. And finally, H, A causes cattle to enter into a field belonging to Z, intending to cause and knowing that it's likely to cause damage to Z's crop. So therefore, he has committed mischief. So mischief is really pretty straightforward, just like criminal damage also is very straightforward. And just to close off this topic, we talk about punishment, which you don't really need to know. You don't need to know in the exams. You'll see that the punishment for mischief under 426 is very light. Okay, it's just a maximum of 3 months imprisonment or a fine. Now in section 427, and you will again see how old the penal code is and how in need of amendment it is. If you cause damage of something which is 25 ringgit and above, then the maximum sentence is 2 years. So when you talk about 3 months, it's only basically for causing damage or destruction of property which is below 25 ringgit. What is below 25 ringgit these days? Where can you find it? I know, you can only find it in Daiso, right? And probably in Mr. DIY. Okay, so it's 2 years imprisonment and or a fine. Sections 428 and 429 talks about damage to animals. So if you kill an animal, you are considered to have caused criminal damage. Animal is considered to be property. So animal that is worth 5 ringgit and above, or animal that is worth 25 ringgit and above, right? So it talks about the punishment for this. Gracia Michael is a case where he actually killed a dog, a pet dog. Now, section 430 and to 434 talks about works of irrigation, railway, engine, train, etc., bridge, river, blah, 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 all these things. If you cause damage to this kind of things, then the punishment will be under sections 430 to 434. Now, if you cause mischief by fire or by explosive substance, then the punishment will be under 435. Obviously, that's going to be a bit more serious. And 436, if you cause damage by fire or by any explosive substance, and you intend to cause or knowing that it is like it will cause destruction to any building which is used as a place of worship, administration of justice, or transaction of public affairs, or for education or art, or for public use or ornament, or as a human dwelling, or as a place of custody of property, then the punishment may extend to 20 years. Right, 20 years. Ng Hong Ki is a case where he actually did that. Okay, so you can see that place of worship, you want to cause damage or destroy a mosque or a temple, administration of justice, the courts, transaction of public affairs, right? Transaction of public affairs. So these are government offices. For education, university, schools, art, museums, right? This for public use or ornament, human dwelling, right? So human dwelling, somebody's house, custody of property. All this, right, may actually extend to 20 years imprisonment. And finally, 437 to 439 is on when you cause mischief on vessels. But wait, there are some more. Section 440 is basically committing mischief while taking part in an unlawful assembly or riot, or you commit mischief having preparation for causing to any person death or hurt or wrongful restraint, or fear of death or hurt or wrongful restraint. Right? This will come under section 440. So not just mischief, but mischief while committing another offense, right? Or preparing to commit another more serious offense. So this may extend to 5 years, 5 years imprisonment, right?